For nearly 500 years, waves of Christian invaders, armored knights, and pilgrims swept over and over again into Muslim lands. Their goal? To conquer Jerusalem and assure their own place behind heaven's pearly gates. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time for that ironic, oxymoronic topic of Holy War, the Crusades. God wills it! Yes, God wills it, despite the fact that Jesus said, love your enemies, and that the Ten Commandments say, thou shalt not kill. The popes of the Middle Ages will preach war after war into the Holy Land. But how did these wars all get started? That is the question we shall investigate. So hang on, true believers, and once more we will see that ironic pairing of war and religion. For a true understanding of the Crusades, let's go back to the early Catholic Church and Christianity's remarkable spread through the Roman Empire. Christianity was born in the Roman Empire, despite the fact that a Roman governor by the name of Pontius Pilate crucified and killed Jesus, and despite the fact that the Romans beheaded Paul, the co-founder of Christianity, and despite the fact that the Romans killed Christians for hundreds and hundreds of years. Despite all this, the Christian faith eventually conquers Rome itself. Thus, the borders of Christianity essentially become the borders of the Roman Empire. These Christian areas remained even after the Roman Empire collapsed in 476 CE. On this map you can see Christian areas shaded in blue. The light green are areas converted later through the work of missionaries, and here, through the bloody work of Charlemagne. Go, Christianity, go! Now, this map shows the rise and spread of Islam during the 7th and 8th century. This was after the Prophet Muhammad converted the Bedouin tribes of Arabia to the worship of God, or Allah. Now, if you compare the maps, you'll notice that Islam has overtaken areas that were once solely Christian. This includes the Holy Land, North Africa, all the way up into European Spain. There are still Christians in these areas, but through the years, most of them will all convert to Islam. So you now have what was once the Roman Empire and what was once a solely Christian area now divided into Christian Europe and Muslim North Africa. Also, please note that the holiest city in Christianity, the city where Jesus was crucified and resurrected, is now controlled by Islam. This was the situation for about 400 years or so. Then, along comes Pope Urban II. Pope Urban II becomes Pope of the Roman Catholic Church in the year 1088. Pope Urban knew all of this, had these same maps, and knew that all of this was once Christian territory. And now, due to the Arab conquests of the 7th and 8th century, these were the territories that Christianity had lost. But hey, these losses were hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and things had stabilized, right? Well, not exactly. In 1072, the Byzantine Empire lost Turkey. From Pope Urban's seat, another Christian land had fallen to Islam. The Byzantines were asking the Pope for help, asking him to send knights to help them resist the armies of Islam. In addition to this conquest or loss of Turkey, the Pope also was aware that Muslim pirates were constantly raiding across the Mediterranean Sea into European areas, some even into the suburbs of Rome itself. From Pope Urban's seat, it looked as if he might be sitting through another expansion of Islam, an expansion, he feared, that could possibly invade the rest of Europe, an expansion that maybe, perhaps, would conquer all of Europe, a conquest that would destroy Christianity. No, no. So, what was a pope to do? Urban had to do something, but what? What Pope Urban decided to do was to call all the great lords of France together to a town in Clermont in southern France. There, Urban made a tremendous speech, calling for something new to Christianity. He called for a crusade, a holy war, to push back the forces of Islam and free the city of Jerusalem. No matter that this word is nowhere in the Bible, Urban spoke and told these knights of horrific atrocities or monstrous deeds done by the armies of Islam, including forced circumcision and defecating on baptismal altars. Urban whipped his crowd into a fury, and at one point the crowd began chanting, "God wills it! God wills it! God wills it!" meaning God wants this war, God demands this war, God demands his vassals go and fight and free his city. Probably the most important part of Urban's speech is that he declared that anyone who goes on this crusade would automatically punch their ticket to heaven. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, go straight to heaven. This claim probably was the most powerful part of Urban's speech for those in the crowd. You see, Urban knew his audience well. In the crowd were hundreds, perhaps thousands of lords who warred against each other incessantly. They warred against each other because it's what they knew. They spent their lives in blood and gore while protected by suits of chainmail and armor. But these suits of iron could not protect their souls. These knights believed that their lives were sinful, and they were. They were terrified that they would ultimately burn in hell. Even more powerful was the fact that death constantly stalked them. Average life expectancy was mid-30s for men. An infected tooth, a fall from a horse, pneumonia, a burst appendix, all meant death during the Middle Ages, when antibiotics and even primitive medical techniques were unknown. Knights lived to the fullest, and they lived in sin. Look at this poor sinful fellow. Oh my. Let's see. He spent his life in war. He fears death. He spent a lot of time in bed with women that are not his wife. He starves the weak. He mocks and steals from the Lord himself. Where does this fellow belong? Why, in hell, of course. Burn, burn, burn. And he knew that that's where he deserved to be. But now, Pope Urban had given him a path to salvation, a path to heaven, to glory. And all he had to do was do the same things he's always done. Live violently, kill, raid, burn, but in this case, do it for God. Do it for God against the Muslims, and take back the city of Jerusalem. God wills it! God wills it! God wills it? Okay. Well, to recap, how did the Crusades begin? Well, I guess I give much of the credit or the blame for the Crusades on Pope Urban II. Soon to follow after his speech, were many, many more Crusades. But he was the Pope who saw that Christianity was endangered by the spread of Islam. He was the Pope that manipulated Christianity to ignite a holy war. And not only does he manipulate Christianity, but he manipulates the European nobility, the great European lords, who are terrified for their immortal souls. Soon after Urban launches these Crusades, we'll have the Peasants' Crusade, the somewhat successful First Crusade, the Kingdom of Outremer, warrior monks, Templars, Hospitallers, and of course the famed battles between Richard the Lionheart and Saladin during the Third Crusade. But those stories must wait for another YouTube. Thanks for watching, YouTubian, and God wills it. God wills it. God wills that I go and make me a sandwich. Have a good night. You too, Urban. You too.